Well, good afternoon, and welcome back to Mondays with Michael Live here on Facebook. We're trying out today using my personal page to go live. So for those of you on the Training Solutions page or also on the Training Solutions page, we're going to be here for a couple times to see how this works out for us. I want to thank you for coming back. We took a little bit of the summer off, so hopefully everyone had a great summer. But we're going to go ahead and dig right in today. I have a couple commercials for you like we normally do. I'll be using my notes as I normally do, and these sessions will last about 10 minutes. If you come into the room, feel free to say hi and ask questions. Our session today is around trust on teams. But I do have a couple of upcoming events I wanted to share with you. On October 18th in Tyson's Corner, we'll be doing an executive briefing on our 5 behaviors of a cohesive team program. I will be talking about that program over the next 5 weeks. We're going to talk about each of those 5 elements of a cohesive team, just starting with trust today. So I will put a link later on in the video, in the messaging area, the chat area, and let you register for that event coming up in October over in Tyson's. We have the folks from Wiley coming out. Should be a really good session. And then next week on Wednesday, I'll be doing a 30-minute webinar on our Work of Leaders, our Everything This Work of Leaders program. It's just an overview of the program we provide. Talks about leading from vision, alignment, and execution. We'll talk briefly about the 18 behaviors that the assessment measures, but we'll talk about that on the 19th. And again, I'll put a link in there after today's session. So today's session is on trust and trust on a team. Let's talk about trust on a team. When we take folks through this 5 behaviors program, and I've had the pleasure of taking a few teams through this program, trust is the bedrock. Trust is the base. Trust is probably the most important thing we talk about. Sometimes this is a brief conversation with some teams that have been around a long time, but sometimes, and most of the time, it's a deep conversation about what are the issues that are facing a team around trust. So with the assessment, what we measure is when team members are genuinely transparent and honest with each other, they are able to build vulnerability-based trust. So we talk about vulnerability-based trust, not predictive trust, but vulnerability-based trust. Kind of telling folks when you mess up, asking folks for help, apologizing when maybe you don't live up to team and individual expectations. Let's talk about that a little bit. So we get the folks together in the room after we do the basic introductions and other things to start off the program. We really break down this trust module, and there are kind of 4 areas we start looking at. What is affecting the team around trust? So the first thing we look at is that team members acknowledge each other's weaknesses. So when I really don't know how to do something, whether it's my responsibility or not, or if I need help doing something, am I willing to ask folks around the table, around the team for help? Am I willing to go to my colleague and say, listen, I really don't understand this. Can you help me out? And we talk about that. And based on how the team answers that, and again, most of the teams we work with, their trust scores are really, very low. We actually get into a deeper discussion of why that happens, and all kinds of things come out that they don't want to be embarrassed by talking about their weaknesses, or they were hired for a certain job, they want to show people that maybe they don't know how to do that particular job. But what happens a lot of times is once you start asking for help, then other folks ask you for help, and then it gets a bit more collaborative. The second thing we look at, again, this is something new for a lot of teams, is are team members willing to apologize to one another? If you let the team down, or you let a colleague down, a partner down at the workplace, are you willing to go up and say, listen, I'm sorry, I messed up, I should have gotten this to you on time, something came up, I couldn't get it to you, I had to run out of the office, whatever it was, but willing to apologize, willing to be vulnerable, say I'm sorry when you've let somebody down, or you let the team down by not finishing up something on time. We talk about team members being genuine with one another, being open, honest, and direct with one another. Are you willing to share what you're really thinking and really feeling with team members, whether they be individually or together? What is it you're really trying to get across to your team member? Are you genuine? Are you really genuine with one another? The next one is team members ask one another for input regarding their areas of responsibility. So again, are you willing to ask for help? Are you really, really willing to ask for help in areas of responsibility that you have that that others may not understand? So team members ask for each other's input regarding their areas of responsibility. So if I really don't know how to do something, am I willing to ask for help? So after we deeper dive those 4 areas, we get into this discussion around DISC. And for those of you who know me, you know our company, we do a lot of DISC work. And DISC is part of Module 1 of this program. So participants will get feedback on their DISC style, whether they're D, I, S, or C. We'll do some interactivity. We'll introduce them to the DISC model. But we'll also do what they bring to the team based on their style. So based on their style, what can team members expect from them? What do they like to do? What they don't like to do? We kind of map this out a little bit. We put folks into their 4 DISC style quadrants. We do some activities around the DISC. So they understand each other from a behavioral style. So when I do this and you do that, you understand where I'm coming from. And then we get into, we do an activity. We do a very neat activity about halfway during the program called the personal story exercise. I really like doing this exercise. Participants get to share a little bit about themselves. It's a bit of an icebreaker activity. It's a bit of a, I want to say sappy, but it's a little bit of a touchy-feely type thing. But it's interesting to see what happens if folks really want to share something about themselves that maybe folks don't really know. It's a pretty, open discussion. We share with folks what happens in the room, stays in the room. But when people get to learn a little more personally about each other, we find that they tend to be a little more open in other areas of discussion. So we have this discussion, and then we get to a place where we talk about what needs to happen on your team for there to be more trust. What are the barriers? What are the things the team needs to work on? And before we get to the action item parts, we talk about barriers. What are barriers from building trust on the team? And the assessment gives you several options. I'm just going to read a couple to you. There would be more trust in our team if we reduced the amount of gossip, people admitted their mistakes, letting go of grudges, which is a big issue for a lot of teams, understood each other's work style a little better, we're more forthcoming with information, get to know each other on a personal level. We always have a joke about when's the next wine outing. Readily apologize, spend more time together, share professional failures and successes, and give credit to others where credit is due. So based on where the team falls, we'll have a deeper dive discussion on 3 or 4 of those areas and what can the team do to build on that trust area. And then we do action planning. We do action planning for each of the 5 modules. Teams do action planning at the individual level. They also do action planning at the team level. So at the team level, one of the couple of things that teams kind of gel out of this module is that they admit their mistakes for one another. They're willing to say, I messed up. They ask for help when they need help. They're not afraid to ask help when they need help. They accept responsibility when things that they've said they're committed to don't happen. They give each other the benefit of the doubt. They ask for help. They apologize. They're a bit more vulnerable when working on this team. And those things take practice. This module takes usually a half a day to get through. We usually give folks a couple of weeks between modules to practice this skill of trust. There are things we'll give them to do between session 1 and session 2. And then they come back and talk about it. So when we start the next session on healthy conflict and talking about conflict on a team, they are given an opportunity to share with the group where they've practiced this trust, this new trust behavior in the workplace. And it's very interesting to see what comes out in the beginning of Module 2 about trust. Again, we do this in every other module, but it's interesting when people actually start practicing this, the real-life implications of how well this works when people feel that they are open, honest, direct, and they can be vulnerable, they can share with each other. You can share with me, I can share with you. We're doing things for benefit of the team, benefit of the company. Really helps out a lot. Now, this is just one step in the module, though. There are 4 other steps that are just as important, but trust is the base. And again, a lot of the teams I work with, their trust scores are really, really low. And a lot of times it's issues that have been facing them a long time, and they just got to start talking about it and getting it out in the open. So I see we're coming up close to our 10-minute mark. I want to make sure that I just end where we started today. We have an executive briefing coming up on October 18th in Tyson's about this team building program, the 5 behaviors program. And then next Tuesday the 19th, we'll have a session on work of leaders, everything that's work of leaders. So we'll post this on all our social media. I want to thank you for hanging out with me in the room today. Mondays with Michael Live here on Facebook. And look forward to seeing you next Monday. Have a great week. Bye.